Greetings Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rick Walker. Welcome back to the Maverick News channel. We have a lot lined up for you tonight. Joining us very shortly will be Dragon. He's back out using his nose for news, digging up the latest information at McGill University, and a second location where another encampment, it looks like, has been set up to support the pro-Palestinian position on that war in Gaza. So he'll bring us up to date there. The university has applied for an injunction. They're hoping to make those protesters leave the university grounds. We'll tell you all about it, so don't go away. We are also going to talk about Eurasian security. This happening as we've seen Russian officials make some statements today that are generating headlines related to, well, I don't know. How would I characterize it? The headlines seem to suggest saber rattling to some degree, with Lavrov saying that if the West wants to settle this on the battlefield, so be it. Now, I don't know if the translation on what I've seen online is accurate, but Kevin Michelizzi will join us to help us decipher what is happening on that front. Pat King, freedom fighter, in court today, day one of his trial up in Ottawa. For those of you who may not know, Pat King was involved in that huge freedom convoy, and he is facing quite a long list of charges that, if found guilty on any of it, he could end up in jail for a considerable amount of time. We'll bring you up to date on what happened there. Bank of Canada sounding the alarm on the economy. Vice President Kamala Harris dropped an F-bomb today. We'll tell you why. And we'll show you the storm that erupted after she did that. And Hamas, they've been providing all of the numbers on casualties in Gaza, even to the United Nations. Well, today the UN revised downward the casualty numbers, and we'll give you the latest on that as well. So we have that and more. So don't go away. We'll come back on the other side, and we'll get Dragon on the line and find out what's going on with this pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian protest up in Montreal. Be right back.
Maverick News. The world is watching. Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
All right, let's go up to Montreal. Right now, Dragon is standing by. Let's find out what's going on up there with that pro-Hamas, pro-Palestine protest in that
Hello,
city.
sir.
Hello, Dragon. How are you tonight?
Doing extremely great, actually. And, actually, I found a new location, which actually they started 2 days ago. So, as you can see, there's a barricade at the University of Quebec in Montreal. And this is what it's looked like from one part. And what I'm going to do for you tonight is make you a little tour, if you will, of the campus. So, this is what it's going to look like for the part of this march. So yeah, there's a part of the campus that is closed up, actually, from the people to come in or out. So actually, they're kind of barricading the whole thing at some point.
Oh.
So what I'm going to do is pass through some part of the campus. And we're going to do a tour, basically. So this is one part of the campus, beautiful campus here. As you can see, it's pretty easy going. A cop car right there. So there's a lot of cops around here. So I'm pretty much secure, I will say.
Okay.
And I've went to McGill University today. I've heard, actually, that most of the people sleeping there at night, so that's the thing, but they are making sure that security wise is done. They are making sure that it's clean for them and not making anything, basically. So that's the other part of the barricade here.
So what's the objective there? Are they trying to prevent?
Whoops. For some reason, I don't hear you, Rick. Technical. Okay. So I think, okay. So I'm not sure because I didn't heard your question, Rick.
Okay.
But
what is that barricade
okay,
set up? Why is that set up down there? What are they trying to do?
Actually, it's to block actually access, I would believe, or just they don't want actually anyone to come through there. I've heard that they have turned out some medias around. So,
can you, when you're doing this, can you turn so that your back is to what it is we're seeing, and then we can see what it is that is sort of behind you, right? That way we can see you and what the subject that we're talking about. That's better. So now we can sort of see the blockade back there. Are there many people there? Have you seen people?
Actually, it's hard to see any people because they are all behind the barricades. So it's kind of hard to tell. But there's a few people, like if you can see that tent here, there's like 4 people around there. So
have you walked up to these barricades at any time during the day? Is it, or do you feel unsafe there in any way?
Unsafe, no, but I didn't went too close. Question of being respectful of not steering any any bad situation, if you will.
Yeah, well, they haven't
So,
been very receptive at McGill over the last few days that you've been there. That's for sure.
well, I did have some luck today, actually. There's some people that I did send you a few photos. And yeah, they were eager actually to talk a little bit
Okay.
more eager. But there's one lady actually that, if you can see, there's another part of the barricade here. So basically the connection here from where I started, I went through this part, and this part is connected to the campus, and there's a little kind of door here, but there's an alleyway. But yeah, it's getting towards some white tarp, so I'm not going to look into it too much, but it's going to look like that. So.
Okay, so I see these photos that you sent. I am going to try to get them downloaded so we can share them with people.
So basically, McGill barricade, structure-wise, has actually bloomed for the last 2 days. It's a little bit wider. Also, there's a picture that I've sent you that are basically the banner for the demands and what they want. So.
Now, do you know much about this request for an injunction at McGill?
Well, the injunction basically is all about mostly what, McGill University actually has some funded with Israel at some point. So what's going on is that they are demanding for them to stop that. And if not, they are not eager to get away from there. So basically, I will call that an occupation. Kind of what we have been doing with the truckers, actually, till we are not, having our demand fulfilled. The trucker were not eager to get away from Ottawa 2 years ago, if we all remember. So it's kind of.
But do you see a difference between what happened with that freedom convoy and what's going on with these protests at the universities?
The difference will be that, I'm kind of digging into their front, if you will, and all the people or the organization behind, like the PLO and stuff like that. So I would probably argue that in a way, they are trying to recruit people to their to their cause. So that's what it's looked like on the other part. So basically, I was on the other side here, and this is basically I went to the other street, and this is what it's looked like.
Okay. So what you're saying is you're seeing indications that they're using the protests to recruit people for, I don't know, whatever you would call these organizations, political activism groups. I guess.
Well, mostly I would call that political activists.
Or maybe worse, any indication that these are terrorist groups behind any of this? I guess
I don't think.
Hamas is considered by some to be a terrorist group.
Well, the way I see it, most of the people doesn't know what they are fighting for some reason, and most of the people that I've heard from one of the security guard there, they are mostly Canadian or like they are non-Palestinian people barricading themselves right here, right now, where I'm at. So it's kind of, how can what's the supposition I can make from that, right? And since nobody is eager to answer any of my question, I don't know what to think about it. So.
Sorry, Dragon. I'm trying to upload these pictures, and I'm doing everything on the fly, and it's very, very difficult. And I keep putting pictures up over top of your face. I apologize
All good.
from a previous broadcast, so I do apologize for that. I'm getting these images that you sent uploaded now, so just give me a moment, and we can show people what's going on at McGill.
I will tell you, you're all excused because you know what? Being live is a hard gig, so and I'm learning about it myself, as you know. So
Yeah.
kudos to you, sir.
No, you're doing a great job there, sir. So, okay, here. I think we lost your feed. Speaking of a tough gig, but you're back now. Okay, I don't have time to format these to 16 by 9, so we're just going to have to take them as we have them here, straight out of your.
So this one is the banner of the demands.
Okay, disclose, divest, defend, declare. So, disclose, that means tell everybody what the university's connections to Israel is or are. Divest those investments. Defend
Exactly.
and declare. I don't know what those mean. Do you have any idea what that means beyond that?
Basically, they want to protect their own, their own culture in a way, which is fine. I mean, this is what everyone strive for. But
I don't know what you mean by I don't know what you mean. They want to protect their culture. I'm trying to make sense of what those demands are. Disclose, divest. I get defend and declare what?
Declare. Good question. Actually, I'm gonna.
I can't read the fine print on those signs. I mean, and
yeah, I had some problem today. Yeah, I did actually had some explanation, but one of the guy was kind of. I will.
Oh, there it is. It's closer. Okay. Here, I've got a close-up shot from you. Okay. So, disclose full transparency regarding investments in companies complicit in the genocide of Palestine, which today from the White House we heard again them saying that they don't consider what's going on there a genocide. That's the other side. Divest. It says divest from all complicit companies and cut ties with Israeli academic institutions. Okay. 3, defend. Protect students' right to protest. No disciplinary charges for student action in support of Palestine. 4, declare. Publicly condemn the ongoing, again the word genocide, of Palestinians and call for the government to cease all arms deals with Israel. Oh, we lost Dragon. His feed got cut. There he is. He's back. I think. There he is. Okay.
We're back. Sorry.
He's back. Okay, so I was able to read all of the information on the sign. And there they are. Do you know who these people are? Did they give you names or anything?
The lady is called Diana, and the Mister there is actually GY. This is the name that he wanted to be called. So,
okay.
But one of them has agreed to have some interview with me, probably later this week. So I'm gonna try hard to, talk to one of them and have a clear view of all that.
Well, I guess we'll have to see if they're still there later this week because McGill University is pushing for an injunction to dismantle that pro-Palestinian protest camp,
yes.
As you know, was established on the university's campus. And you're just seeing these pictures there. In Quebec Superior Court today, Jacques Darche argued that the camp, which he repeatedly referred to as an occupation, violates university policies and obstructs McGill from utilizing its land for annual convocation ceremonies. He went on and emphasized terms like fortress, village, fortifications, as he described the encampment. and it has grown into a collection of dozens of tents surrounded by temporary fencing. The Superior Court Justice Marc St. Pierre, however, challenged Darche. Am I pronouncing his name right? Do you know, or are you
Yep.
familiar? Darche?
Yeah, actually, you're doing right. Darche.
Okay. To demonstrate the urgent need to dismantle the camp, insisting on evidence beyond McGill's right to use its land. So, despite Darche's assertions, McGill filed court documents stating that the camp, which was erected with a warning, poses security, safety, and public health risks, escalating tensions on campus. The university does maintain that it supports the right to protest, but deems the camp a fortified and entrenched space. So it looks like we're going to get a ruling from the court, Dragon, maybe tomorrow, possibly Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in a previous case, lawyer Julius Gray represented Palestinians and Jews United, which contested McGill's injunction request, citing the peaceful nature of the demonstration and refuting claims of permanence, unsanitariness, and fire hazards. So amid procedural disputes between McGill's lawyers and the defendants, arguments on the injunction's merits had yet to commence. Notably, a prior injunction attempt filed by two McGill students on May 1st failed to convince Justice Chantal Massey, who ruled against it, citing a lack of irreparable harm caused by the encampment. Disputes persist regarding safety and hygiene within the encampment. McGill alleges that university staff, fire officials, and Montreal police have been obstructed from assessing risks and resolving the situation peacefully. Meanwhile, protesters, lawyers challenged McGill's evidence of danger, citing a doctor's affidavit attesting to the camp's public health safety. The university faces criticism for its sanitation concerns, particularly its refusal to allow portable toilets at the site. The ongoing standoff reflects broader demands by protesters, including the severing of ties with Israeli academic institutions, as we just saw in those signs, and investment from companies linked to Israel. So we've seen similar protests on university campuses across North America, and now this other new one that Dragon has found over here at the University of Quebec. How far away are these two universities, Dragon? McGill and
Actually,
Quebec?
not very far away. Right now, I'm on Sherbrooke Street, which is right here, right? And if you go a little bit further away in that direction, probably 5-minute walk, and you're at McGill campus.
So that barricade there, it doesn't look there like you even have any people up there. Are you able to walk up closer to it so we can get a better look at it?
Actually, the closest that I went to is where I was previously. It was the closest where there's the blue tent with the 3 or 4 person that was in there. That was the only, that was the closest I could go. They are basically cutting off this part, actually. One of the security guard told me earlier that I could probably go inside, probably go on that little bridge right here. Right here, that little bridge.
Yep.
I cannot go anywhere further because I was right there. And while we were talking, the lady security guard told me that I need to go on the sidewalk. So that's kind of, freedom of expression, and again, of press being suppressed.
So just so I understand correctly, are you just choosing not to walk up to it because you're concerned about having a confrontation with the people, or do they have like a rope up or something, or have they established some boundary line that they're asking people not to cross?
Well, it's mostly because the security guard told me not to go any further because now I'm on the sidewalk. And I could go from here and go down there at some point. But the security guard right there, they told me to go back to on the sidewalk.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And also there's a cop guy.
Right.
There's a cop car right next to me. So I don't want to get any trouble.
No, I'm just trying to understand why, access for you is being restricted to the point where you went. That's all. I just want to know why, and if it was just a choice, or if the protesters had asked you to stay back. But you're telling me that it's security that has asked you to stay back. So
Yeah.
I totally get it. Okay, now I understand. So
Probably
that's
for
very
my own
helpful.
security also.
Of course, yeah, and for everybody, sure. So they feel that that's the safe thing to do. So of course we're going to respect that. So also, graffiti at McGill. Have you seen the graffiti there, sir?
No, actually, I've been walking around and I have seen none of them.
Okay.
But
I'm going to
intending
run some
to,
video here, Dragon, of that somebody else shot of graffiti that apparently this is supposed to be graffiti at McGill related to this. I'm going to run this, and you tell me if you think that this is accurate footage, okay? So let's take a look at this.
okay.
Does that look accurate? Have you seen any of that?
No, actually, this is one building that I haven't seen, so I might want to get there and probably investigate myself
Yeah, I'm
and
very
walk
curious
around.
about that.
Yep. And well, by investigating, I will be able to tell you if this is relevant or not.
Yeah, I'd
So,
like to know if that's real. That
yeah,
was
me too.
sent over here. Um,
Well,
supposed
look,
to be McGill University.
I did send you some link from CTV on Twitter, right? From what happened yesterday and 2 days before. And actually, I've seen nothing on the ground, as vandalism or anything like that in that part. So it's kind of weird because, normally it would be a thing I would probably see, like glasses broken and stuff like that, which I haven't seen. So I'm kind of curious to know if it's true or not.
I'm very curious to know as well.
Is it also a false flag? Because, just to make us kind of angry about the whole thing,
Well, you think that
any
you think what
media could do.
university administrators went out there and spray painted the building
No,
themselves?
not on that kind of false flag. The false flag that I'm referring to would be probably more like media trying to gas fire and gaslit the situation. If it's untrue, which I
Well,
cannot
yeah.
confirm.
Did you see footage like that on mainstream media?
I've seen a few actually on Twitter because I'm not following mainstream media much, but this is where I get my kind of my cues and sources.
Sure. Well, I mean, if you get a chance, how far away is McGill from where you're at?
Probably 5 minute, 10 minute walk. It's
Good.
very close, and I'm probably like 10 minutes away from home. So
Okay. Would you mind walking over there to just take a
sure,
look for us this evening?
yeah,
I mean,
I'm good for that if you wanna.
yeah, absolutely. I'd really like to be able to either confirm or debunk one way or the other whether this graffiti is real.
Yep.
This was sent to me yesterday. I don't know. I haven't seen it anywhere else. I've only seen that single video clip of that. So yeah, I'd really like to know. In
Yeah,
fact, I'll tell you what. Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to debunk the whole thing too.
Yeah, or confirm one or the other. So let's see if it's a real thing. I'll tell you what, Dragon. Why don't we sign off? You can go over there, get reconnected. You can jump back in whenever you're ready. Kevin Michelizzi is going to be joining us from Crimea at 7 p.m., so that's in 25 minutes. I'm going to cover some of the other news of the day, and we'll reconnect with you as soon as you are ready to jump back in, okay?
All right. Well, Dragon already on the way, and I'm signing out.
Okay, thank you, sir. And we'll connect with Dragon again in a few moments when he gets over to McGill again, and we'll find out if that's real or not. Looks real, but in this day and age, I don't know if I should believe anything that I see on X, formerly known as Twitter. I'll be right back.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
So, as I understand it, the request for an injunction to have protesters removed from McGill has taken some complicated twists and turns in court. And that is in part because it isn't clear who the actual defendants might end up being. They don't really have names. The people there have told the authorities, which seems to be a legal trick that's being used quite often by protesters now, that they don't really have any organizers or leaders, that the hierarchy of command is flat. In other words, they don't have anybody really in charge. The judge today as well, I guess, made comments citing concerns about maybe inadvertently involving other people on the periphery of this, possibly even some of the law faculty that apparently are on strike there right now. So they don't want to get them caught up in this. And then I'm not exactly sure how the property rights issue might play out here. As I indicated, the university does have control of that land. And then, of course, trespassing would be used as one of the legal remedies. And at this point, it's a little bit complicated because, Canada has a long tradition of supporting people's right to protest. That is a common area, as I would characterize it, at the university, that lawn. But I think that they absolutely have crossed a legal line when they're preventing people from, like other members of the public, from accessing that same common area when they've essentially seized it. That being said, Canadian law authorities generally will provide a lot of latitude to protesters and let them stay for some time, usually, before they finally move in. But make no mistake, eventually they will take action to clear that encampment out, I expect, because they do need to strike a balance between the right to protest and property rights and the rights of all people to access common areas on property controlled by public institutions like universities. Now, what else do we have going on before we'll go back to this story and catch up with the dragon again when he gets to McGill, and we'll find out if that footage of the graffiti is current or what the heck is going on with that. Let's move on here to some financial news for the moment. The Bank of Canada officials there are keeping a close eye on rising leverage and asset valuations that could spell trouble if there are significant market swings. But they are reassuring Canadians that there's no immediate threat of a repeat of the 2008 financial crisis. But I'll tell you, if you have the governor of the Bank of Canada sitting there, even talking about a possible major downturn in the economy, you can be pretty sure that things are not looking rosy. And that's because one of the main jobs for people in charge over at the Bank of Canada is to instill a high degree of confidence in the economy and in the banking system. In their annual report, which was released last week, the central bank highlighted a sharp uptick in leverage in Canadian bond and repo markets, particularly among hedge funds. And these funds seem to be ramping up their borrowing, likely driven by strategies linked to interest rate cuts. Senior Deputy Governor Carolyn Rogers emphasized the importance of stress tests and maintaining healthy margins to weather price fluctuations, saying that they pointed it out, not necessarily with the intention of saying you should stop doing it because there's some value in having a good futures market, so you create liquidity in normal times, but I don't think these are really normal times. According to the bank's financial stability report, leverage through borrowing in the repo market surged by approximately 30% in the past year. Hedge funds led the charge, increasing their repo leverage by about 75%. Meanwhile, pension funds also upped their repo leverage by 14%. I'm kind of leading up to this tonight, which is this clip from the head of the bank. Oh, here, let me get this cued for you. Here we go. When I hear talk like this, I get nervous. I'm very nervous. Listen to this guy.
Some indicators of financial stress have risen. At the same time, the valuations of some financial assets appear to have become stretched. This could increase the risk of a sharp correction that could generate system-wide stress. The recent rise in the use of leverage in non-bank financial institutions could amplify the effects of such a correction.
Look, I'm just saying, okay? That guy, his job is to keep people feeling good. He's supposed to instill confidence in the system. And that's not what I'm hearing there. I shouldn't even be laughing, but it's kind of scares me, to be quite honest with you, when I'm hearing that coming from him. So that's Tiff Macklem. He's the governor of the Bank of Canada, and I also have Trudeau queued up here. Well, all this is going on, and you have people protesting increasing tax rates, in particular the carbon tax. So he has people camped out on the sides of highways, backing up the Axe the Tax movement, is what it's become, sort of, which was that it's a slogan that the Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, came up with. And that's a main plank in his election campaign platform. And so what's Trudeau do today? He comes out with a video promoting and explaining his plan to increase the capital gains tax. And this, I'll let Trudeau explain what his plan is, but and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to tell you just one of the things that's already happened as a result of his capital gains tax increase, or his plan to increase that tax. If you don't understand what a capital gains tax is, Trudeau will try to explain it to you right here in this brand new public relations video.
This is a tax policy change that impacts less than 1% of people, but look at how much attention it's getting. This is a tax policy change that impacts less than 1% of people, but look at how much attention it's getting. Some people don't think that the richest few should pay more in taxes. Well, I don't agree with that. At a time when the richest are only getting richer, I think it's fair to ask those people to pay a little more. You may have heard of the capital gains tax, or what some people call the capital gains tax advantage. Now, if you don't know what that is, you probably don't get that advantage. It's basically where you've made enough money and amassed enough wealth in assets that you end up getting a tax break. Here's what I mean. Everybody pays taxes on 100% of their salary. If a nurse is making $70,000 a year, or an investment banker has a salary of $800,000 a year, when it comes to paying income taxes, they're both paying taxes on all of that income. Now, that nurse may be living a good life, but she's probably not earning enough to be buying and selling assets like properties. But that investment banker, who's making $800,000 a year, probably is. He's putting some of his money in assets, like buying and selling properties or shares in companies. This becomes like a second and sometimes bigger source of income for him. When that investment banker sells those assets, he only pays taxes on 50% of the profits he makes. Now, he's not paying 50% in taxes. It means that if he makes $1 million from selling properties or stocks, taxes only apply to $500,000 worth of it. So when all the math is done, that nurse is paying about 29% in taxes on her full $70,000 salary. But the investment banker, he's only paying taxes on half of the money he makes from selling assets. That's the capital gains tax advantage. And it's not really fair. So we're going to change that. Starting June 25th, if someone makes up to $250,000 in capital gains, they're still going to pay taxes on only half of that. But for anything they make over $250,000, they're going to pay a little more. They'll pay taxes on 2/3 of that. So the very richest people are going to profit a little less off their assets, only 0.13% of Canadians to be exact. These are people who have an average income of $1.4 million a year and are mostly in their 60s or older. So why am I telling you this if the vast majority of you won't pay $1 more? Well, for two reasons. First, the conversation always seems to be dominated by the richest people in a society. This is a tax policy change that impacts less than 1% of people, but look at how much attention it's getting. And second, you should care about your tax system. This change to the capital gains tax will result in almost $20 billion in new revenue that will go towards the biggest investment in housing in Canadian history. Revenue that will create a national school food program, that will make prescription contraception and insulin available for anyone who needs it, that'll build a national dental care program. See, a fair system creates a fair country, and that's what I want, a fair Canada for every generation.
So, okay, so that's like heavy-duty socialism, and what's happening as a result of that already is people are selling their cottages. There's been a flood of cottages placed on the real estate market within the last few weeks because of this, because cottages are considered a secondary residence, not a primary residence. They're subject to this new increase in capital gains taxes. So people are dumping their cottages now. They don't want them. So that's going to result in a decline, I would say, in the value probably of cottages. People are going to try to get rid of them because they're seen now as not, well, people are not going to get anything. They're going to get taxed if there's an appreciation on the value of these properties at a much higher rate. I think it's I was talking to somebody in the real estate business over the weekend, and it goes from around 50-some% to 60-some% capital gains tax. So it's a major hit to anybody that has a cottage. So they're going on the market. Also, capital gains apply to a lot of investments. So what does that mean? It means that people will find alternative ways to invest their money instead of dumping it into investing in things that fuel productivity and fuel companies. They'll put their money into something else, maybe even out of the country, and they'll try to shelter that. And you're going to have a lot less investment that way. So my guess is this assertion that we're going to get $20 billion in additional revenue won't pan out because, and even if you do get 20 billion in additional tax revenue, you're going to kick the crap out of the economy in other areas because he's going after people. He's saying it's the rich. It isn't really the rich. It's sort of the middle class and the upper middle class that he's going to hit hardest with this capital gains tax. These are when you're talking about a capital gains tax, it is an assault on capitalism, but it's also an assault on people who invest for their retirements. It sounds like he's just going after rich people, but it's more complicated than that. And the unintended consequences are going to be severe. We're already seeing it, and it hasn't even taken effect yet. I think the capital gains tax increase takes effect sometime next month. Here's Dragon. He's back on the scene, and there he is out at McGill. Hello, sir. Can you hear us, Dragon? Okay, I don't have any audio there from you.
That's my fault. I muted myself.
I see. That's okay. That's all right.
Okay, so I found one. Actually, it's a small one, but I'm going back to it. I was looking around for some others, and yeah, well, so it's not the one that we have hoped for, but it's a small graffiti, and there's nothing around here much, but well, vandalism-wise. So what I'm gonna do is go back to where I found this one, and try to catch up for the others.
That building that was shown in that video I put up, do you even know where that building is? Have you seen that building?
Actually, I got an idea where it is, but I'm gonna have to walk a little bit more further away in that direction. But I was looking around here, make sure that I haven't missed anything. So here's one that you could probably see right here. So it says Free Palestine. So it's on the marble, a white marble.
Okay, all right.
So it's not that big.
That is not anything like what we saw in that other video.
No, exactly. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk around the premise and see what we can find. And see, I love my setup.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, sir. Why don't we, again, kind of dip out of this. That'll free you up to do a little investigating, walk around, ask some questions, see if anybody can direct you to wherever that building is. If it's even a building on the campus. For all I know, it's all fake. Could be a completely fake video, for all I know. Yep. So let's see if we can confirm that tonight. I'll just let you kind of go to work there. Kevin will be joining us in about 5 minutes' time from Crimea, so that'll give you a little time to do your thing, and then you can come back on when you when you're able to determine one way or another if that video is real. Okay.
All right. Sounds good to me.
All right. Thank you, Dragon. We'll come back to you. All right. There he is. They're doing great work. Let's find out if that's real video. I mean, it looks real. I'm not familiar with the campus at McGill, so I can't tell you if it's real or if it isn't. Now, also today, speaking of what's fake and what's real, we saw at the United Nations the numbers on casualties in Gaza have been revised. let you. And those numbers have been released honestly. All information that I have is that it is actually Hamas that has been releasing casualty figures all the way along. They're sort of their health department or whatever they call it. But yeah, Hamas has been controlling the flow of that information to the United Nations. And so today, we're seeing that they've revised down figures for the number of women and children confirmed killed in the conflict. The revised totals first appeared on the website of the UN's Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs and received as proof by pro-Israel media and commentators that the UN had quietly reassessed civilian casualty rates. Now, on the other side of this, we're hearing that the revised figures have been produced by the Hamas ministry. It had not been verified by the UN, so I don't know. We're seeing that anywhere from 24,000 now to 34,000 deaths, but the number of women and children revised. So I'm going to show you the clip out of the UN today. I think we'll probably hear more about this over the next 24 hours, and maybe we can get clearer verification on what's true, what isn't. But there is an acknowledgement here from a United Nations representative that this is happening. Here's the clip.
Citing Hamas's health ministry numbers, that 13,000 children had died. That was in mid-March in Gaza. The UN released totals yesterday showing that less than 8,000 children have died in Gaza as a result of the war, citing that same Hamas health ministry. Can you clarify the process for how those numbers were revised?
Yeah, the revisions are taken, as we, of course, in the fog of war, it's difficult to come up with numbers. We get numbers from different sources on the ground, and then we try to cross-check them. As we cross-check them, we update the numbers, and we'll continue to do that as that progresses.
It's fine, but it's almost half. It's pretty significant.
Numbers get adjusted many times over the course of a conflict. Once the conflict is done, we'll have the most accurate figures, but we're just going with what we can absolutely confirm, which will always be.
Okay, so I've said from the beginning, take all the numbers with a grain of salt, because we're right in the middle of all this, and who knows. I said that they would likely be revised, and there you go. And talking about accuracy, let's bring Kevin Michelizzi in. Hello, sir. How are you tonight?
Hey, Rick. Doing all right. Early in the morning?
Yes. Yeah, thank you for not getting any sleep and coming on the program. It's difficult to sleep there, I think, these days, though, because you had another attack in your area over the last 24 hours. Tell us about that.
Well, allegedly. I have not seen it with my own eyes, and of course the Ministry of Defense is contradicting this report. Okay. But just up the hill from us, within visual sight, we apparently had 4 Storm Shadow missiles come in, and the Ministry of Defense said that all the missiles were shot down. That was about 6 o'clock in the morning, but there have been some reports coming out from a fairly reliable source saying that they actually caused damage to a secret military base. Now, I've seen the secret military base. I know it exists. It isn't very secret, but so was it a direct strike? Was it damage from falling debris? I don't know for sure, but what we did see about 11 in the morning our time was 2 launches from the same location on Petrie Mountain, which were very large missiles. I don't know what kind they were, probably Kinjals, but they go off over the top of our house, and they go out to sea a ways, and they turn around as they're climbing and reverse back up to Ukraine. So
So
Apparently, the commander was killed, and one other person.
I see. So this is in some of the media. You're getting these reports from Russian media.
This is from some of the Russian media, which is a lot of the information that we get here. So, the Ministry of Defense often does not give a lot of detail, especially if, things are damaged by falling debris or if there's deaths. So, I'm going to say allegedly, very likely, but, again, I can't disparage the armed forces. I can criticize them, and my criticism would be as they aren't always forthcoming with information. So,
And here's an image. So what is it that we're seeing here? What is that? Is that the secret military base?
this is the so-called secret military base, and these domes are a variety of anti-aircraft radar devices.
It doesn't look very secret. It's
That's what I say. Everybody knows it's there, so it isn't very secret.
yeah, you could see that from satellite quite easily. Big white blobs, right, all over the landscape.
And in fact, if you drive up the road from near us going up there, you can pretty readily see them.
Wow. So again, I mean, we're just seeing that this conflict is dragging on.
It is.
Yeah, it's and now that the aid from the U.S. and other NATO countries continues, I expect it's going to continue to drag on for some time to come.
Yeah, we've had a lot of ATACMs being shot down lately. Ukraine did hit an apartment building in Belgorod, took out 10 floors of the building in the center of the building, and last count I saw was 7 dead. So,
Wow. Yeah, and I mean, I see a lot of different casualty figures coming out of various media sources for Ukraine as well. All kinds of numbers, and I don't even know what to make of that either. I'm just talking about these revised figures on the casualties in Gaza. I'm seeing all kinds of huge discrepancies in the numbers for Ukraine and Russia, both. Do you have any idea, Kevin, where we're at with all of that in your area?
The only thing I can say for sure is they are both probably deflating the numbers in their behalf and exaggerating them on the other side. I do know that there are likely less casualties on the Russian side than the Ukrainian side. But I really have no way of knowing that.
Yeah. Someone last night was sending me messages saying that civilian casualties on the Ukrainian side only 10,000. And then I'm looking, but I'm seeing anywhere from 10,000 to 40,000, 11,000 to 44,000. That's a huge discrepancy in the numbers. And anyway, you slice it, it's just.
I think if you get that information from Ukraine, those numbers are quite inflated. If you look at the Kharkiv offensive right now, for example, Russia is just walking all over the place right now. They're advancing through villages and towns, just marching towards Kharkiv. Now, originally, Ukraine was saying they have fortified defenses, but there's reports coming from extremely reliable sources that, they're extremely well-made defenses are actually the civilian buildings in the city, that the fortifications that were built, the money was stolen and Russia is easily destroying them. So, but We also have live video coming in from the area where the civilians are being evacuated. And this is very common, as they will evacuate civilians when they think that they're going to have this severe fight over a city, or if they plan to abandon it. So, it's likely the civilian casualties are less than Ukraine says. Now, are they as little as Russia says? Again, it's hard to say. A lot of people will refuse to leave their homes, and a lot of them have no place to go, or they're waiting for the Russians to come in and become part of the Russian side, and obviously there will be casualties. I can speak for the casualties in places like Belgorod because I have friends there. I've got friends who are reporters that go up to that area and come back out. And, they're pretty reasonable estimates that we're hearing. Like I say, they hit this building during daylight hours. So it was whoever wasn't working or maybe was working night shifts. And it took out one center block of apartments down the center of the building. So 10 floors, 10 apartments, 7 casualties.
I hate to interrupt the flow of information here, but Dragon, it looks like he's standing by and maybe he has something to update for us. Do you have something there, Dragon?
Actually, hi, Kevin. I seen a small graffiti, but it was on a board, so not really a big deal. But I'm still looking for any major graffiti somewhere. And yeah, actually, the most of the officers that I've seen here, or the security members, have been here only for 1 or 2 days, so they are not pretty much in the known. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, I guess keep strolling around. If you find anything, wave at me in the back room there, and I'll bring you back up. I have to say, like, it looked very like that was major graffiti we showed in that video.
Yep.
And if that's true, I'd like to know. I think everybody would like to know. And if it isn't, we'd like to be able to figure that out too. That building, the architecture on that doesn't seem to match what, well, I guess maybe it does. Some of the buildings, you've got a mix of new and older style architecture there on the university campus at McGill. So it could be. I'm just not familiar with the campus, so I don't know. But here, we'll just...
I will say it's a mix of Victorian architectures. It's pretty Victorian in that part of the city.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll leave it with you. We'll come back to you.
Cool.
Happy hunting. He's out there looking for the graffiti. Sorry about that, Kevin. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. Hey, he's looking quite professional these days.
Yeah, well, he's
All
getting
this fancy equipment and me, I'm out there with my fancy camera.
So that is all you need these days is a cell phone and an internet connection, and away you go. You too can be a live streamer, but we try to take things to a slightly more professional level here if we can. So with the attacks there, and then these numbers coming out, we're also seeing today that Lavrov had a news conference, I guess. Can you tell me about that? Because he made headlines today, and I was able to watch his speech, but it's in Russian. And I couldn't find the entire speech with a translation, only clips. So I don't know how accurate that is. I'm going to throw it to you. Tell us the story.
So the clip I sent you in Russian was about 2 minutes. He was speaking at a security conference here, not in Switzerland, but he quoted the Swiss prime minister saying that they were prepared to do battle and defeat Russia on the battlefield. And he went on and he said Russia would much prefer to solve this, diplomatically, have negotiations, but if the West really wanted to try to defeat Russia, Russia was ready for them. So that was what he actually said in Russian. So could you draw out of that what the Western media is saying, that, gee, Russia's willing to do battle with you? Yeah, you could draw that out of it, but it was a little out of context.
Well, here, this is the one clip with the translation that I did find. They say, if the West wants to fight on the battlefield as they talk, let it be. That's the clip.
Yeah, well, that's what he said. That was right after he said, we prefer to solve this diplomatically. And he did talk about the fact that it was solved diplomatically back in March and April of 2022, but the West interfered in that. So,
yeah, you're talking about when what's his face, Boris Johnson, intervened, or so it was reported that he came in and as the story goes, he basically kiboshed a peace deal. Said no, Zelensky, we can't have any of that.
And it has also come out that that was apparently at the behest of the United States government.
So, also, I guess you're seeing or getting more reports that Ukrainians who are now out of country, especially men of fighting age, are being directed to head home to Ukraine, in particular in places like Poland. We've had reports like this before, but you kind of have some information you can update us on with regard to that?
Yeah, I actually got this report from Mike Krupa over there in Poland. So to give credit where credit's due, Mike is extremely reliable in the information he provides. Now, he does point out that there's a lot of European elections coming up soon. But apparently the Polish government has decided that they are going to comply with Ukraine's request to send all Ukrainian men back to their country to whatever comes of them, I guess. We know it means that they'll be sent back to fight. But, Mike's comment was he's not sure how they're going to round up all these people. And a lot of them are heading towards Germany in particular.
So he's saying that a lot of these guys are trying to get to another country where they won't be forced to head back to Ukraine?
Correct.
I see. And we did see reports about a week ago that Ukraine is canceling services at embassies, I believe, for people who want to get their passports renewed so that they can stay out of country. If they don't get them renewed, they have to forces them to return home to Ukraine.
Yeah, all consular services, they cannot renew their passports. I've seen the legislation that was signed, and it means they cannot renew their passports. They can't get replacement passports. The only thing they can do is to choose to go back to Ukraine or remain where they are basically illegally, or take citizenship from another country. And a lot of these men are choosing to take citizenship with other countries. And, there's many of them that are relatively easy to get citizenship from at this time. So, and we're seeing a lot of soldiers, laying down their arms and, surrendering to the Russian side. So it's not a popular fight for the Ukrainian government at this point. Now, the latest order that was signed in the Rada, or the Parliament of Ukraine, was they are now doing electronic summonses. And what that means is they can send your, here when you get a SIM card for your telephone, you have to give your passport information, same as in Ukraine. So the number registered to your passport, or numbers if you have multiple ones, they will send an SMS to and say you've been recruited, show up at the recruiting center. They can attempt to call you, and if you do not answer the phone, the SMS or the not answering the phone, they can now consider that you have been served. And if you've been served, they can fine you for not showing up at the recruiting center, and they can take property from you. They can, they are refusing in those cases banking services. So if you're working anywhere, you can't go to a bank and collect your money, because money, much like here again, is paid to a, they call it a work card. It's like a credit card or an EBT welfare card in the United States. So you basically can't collect money anyway. So they can now go and knock on your front door at the address you're registered at. So, that's another requirement in most of the former Soviet countries is, we have internal passports, and it has a stamp in it that says, this guy is registered to live at this address. And if they knock on your door and you don't answer, or you're not home, they consider you served.
So,
and you can spend 5 years in prison.
Wow.
If they catch you.
Just checking something here. So, you mentioned Switzerland. Can you tell people what's going on at this? It will be going on in Switzerland at this Ukraine summit.
Yeah,
Peace summit there.
kind of what Lavrov was pointing this at is they are having peace negotiations over Ukraine, but they have not invited Russia to join in. And of course, Russia has said, you don't include us, they aren't valid negotiations. I have to agree.
Yeah, how do you have peace talks with only one side? Doesn't make sense.
And of course, we still have the fact that, Zelensky has said he will not negotiate with Russia as long as Putin is president, and they've signed legislation on this. So,
well, that seems really weird. Now, the summit, I guess I haven't really had time to dig into what exactly is on the agenda there, how the talks are being conducted. But if it's called a peace summit, it's not really peace negotiations. I guess they must be justifying this by saying that they're talking about the long-term viability of Ukraine as a nation state and how to secure that sovereignty. That must be something. I mean, I don't know. What are they going to talk about? Do we
who
even
knows?
know?
No. And it's kind of like, like we started this with, taking numbers on casualties from the UN. How the heck do they know? They don't actually have people there. They're taking images from satellites and making wild guesses.
Wow, pretty weird. All this going on, and we're seeing now. I think there's another BRICS meeting coming up in the very near future
In Russia.
I've said, that what we're engaged in here really is sort of an economic war. It is an economic war, this third world war, as much as it is anything else. An information war, a kinetic war, cyber war. It's an economic war. You've got two economic systems jockeying for position. And we're also seeing this talk about a Eurasian security system. That's what Lavrov has made reference to that. I'm hearing an increasing amount of talk with regard to that. As I'm listening to it, what it sounds like to me, and I'd like your thought on this because I may be completely off base here, but is this Eurasian security system sort of an emerging alternative on the other side to NATO?
Yeah, in fact, Russia is involved in this with many former Soviet states where they have an agreement for mutual security. And this is just expanding this. So it's going to be like a a Eurasian NATO, if you want to call it that. And yeah, it's kind of a response to many of these countries saying, the United States is using sanctions against many countries right now. They're threatening sanctions against China. And, and we don't want to be a part of that. And they're kind of viewing that as this is all being based on the United States and NATO. So they want something that counters that. And again, is it something that's going to save everybody, or is it more escalations? Now you have two big military blocs that, supposedly are defensive, but if you have two defensive blocs arguing with each other, is it or isn't it? When people say they're supplying Ukraine or Israel or Kosovo, any of these guys with defensive weapons, what does that mean? Patriot anti-aircraft missiles are defensive weapons, but they're strapping them on airplanes and they're using them to bomb places. So, a bomb is a bomb is a bomb.
At the end of the day, it certainly is. And we're seeing saber rattling rhetoric. We're seeing footage of tactical nuclear drills. We see this language coming from Lavrov that, at least in the media, is being distributed and disseminated in a way that leaves people with the impression that we're getting increasing escalation.
Yeah,
I have to
we
say,
talked the other day about the nukes. We're going to do, readiness tests. Well, yeah, it's saber rattling, and people need to understand Russia does these same drills, and other NATO countries all do these same drills. But you hear one side start saying, we're going to do this, and it starts getting twisted, and a lot of it is rhetoric and warnings. And yeah.
Well, I've seen some of the the pundits out there with talking about the tactical nuclear exercises, making it sound like, well, I've never heard language so aggressive before, and the fact that it's coming from some of these really prominent pundits, influencers, who really have been talking up a lot of the Russian side, talking about them actually getting ready to use them. That really worries me. It hasn't really been coming directly from Putin, but it's been coming from these guys. Then I see other people on the other side. Well, we just had Carl Larson on the other night from Ukraine Defense Support, and he's saying, no, I don't think that it really is something that would be likely to happen at all. I mean, I don't know. I just, the fact that we're talking about it worries me, but...
Yeah, I don't know either, I already don't agree with a lot of what Carl says, but I'll agree with him on we don't know. And, a big deal is being made out of the fact that Russia said we're going to carry on these exercises. But like I say, the United States does them regularly. They often, fly nuclear-capable planes around, the Baltic states, very close to Russia's border, and, doing tactical nuclear exercises, non-tactical nuclear exercises. So it's something that goes on every day, and a big thing is being made out of something that goes on by all of them all the time.
Yeah. Let's bring Dragon back in here. He's still walking around out there. I feel bad watching him walk in the back room. Hey,
what's up?
What have you found? Anything?
Nope. Actually,
No
I'm
graffiti.
still walking around, and well, you know what? It's a big campus. There's a lot of division around, so I gotta walk probably a little mile to do that. But you know me, I never give up.
Yeah. Well,
That's the dragon one.
I would think that if that graffiti is real, it probably must be in the vicinity of where their encampment is. with
Yeah, actually, I did look around and I've seen nothing. Still have a portion of the encampment to look at, because right now I kind of digressed in myself in one direction toward the rest of the campus, see if there's something here. But that's my curious way of going and doing my thing.
I'm just looking it up here, and I'm trying to determine if any
by
of
the
this
way,
is if another.
I'm gonna have
source for
one day to show you my setup, because it's one thing. As you can see, blue rope to make sure that everything stands up.
This is. I don't know, man. This looks weird to me. Let me just see here. I'm looking for another source for that. Look at this. Okay. All right. This is images from 2022 that I found. Let's compare this to what happened to that image? Here it is. Okay, so here's, when I do a Google search, there's some footage. It looks like this is the McCall McBain Arts University Center and Leacock buildings vandalized. Are those on the university campus?
I think so. The name I'm not familiar with, actually. So, yeah. So I'm going to have to do a thorough research.
Yeah, because to me, like that's the same building that we saw in the video.
Mm-hmm.
And there was damage there in 2022, but it doesn't look the same as what was in the video. The damage, but maybe there was something else after. I don't know, man. So I don't know. If you can find that building, then we'll get the answer. So
yep.
Let me just...
Well, I'm walking up the hill, and I'm going to see what's going on in that direction, because that's where actually the Catman is a little bit down that part. So.
Okay, I need to step away from the camera here for a moment. I'm going to leave you two guys to chat for just like 60 seconds or so, and I'll be right back. Hang on.
All right.
Okay, well, so you trying to verify this graffiti claim out there?
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that CTV or any other news outlet is doing any gaslighting and debunking graffiti that has been made, allegedly on the campus turf. So it's
Doesn't
kind of
sound like you're having a lot of luck, though.
No, I've seen a few small ones, nothing very big, but that's it. So there's probably something hidden somewhere, a hidden gem, like we call that in the journalism jargon or the slangs. The hidden gem somewhere.
Well, and the way it works a lot of the times is you see a little bit and you get the right camera angles and it looks like a whole lot.
Yep. Actually, well, I've been lucky to do that for a week or two now. So being at the right place at the right moment.
Yep.
And
see,
I'm walking.
Dragon,
actually, I don't have a car.
I would think that if damage was as extensive as it appeared to be in that video, it would be all over the media. Or at least we'd see some other source for it, but I don't see anything. So I'm really eager to
well, I've been speaking to two policemen and asking if they can direct me to where it was. And no comment. I mean, no comment. They didn't know actually where it is. So
right. Yeah.
That's kind of all right. Let's see if I can find it myself. And well, there's a few graffiti around here, but those are street graffiti most of all. So it's not related.
Related at all. Yeah.
No, none related to what we are covering today.
Okay.
So,
Well, I'll leave you to it again, and I'll check back in with you in a few minutes.
Roger that.
Okay. So he's out there taking. He's doing a good job.
Yeah, he dogs it. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah. So and
So, hey,
what? Sorry.
you mentioned BRICS a minute ago, and I see a small debate going on in chat.
Oh.
Somebody's saying, "Well, BRICS is coming out with new currency in the fall or in August." Somebody else is saying, "Screw BRICS because they just want digital currency." This is what I say every time when we're closing the show: is people need to look beyond what the media is telling them. BRICS has been talking for an awful long time about the fact that they are not developing a currency. Now, are they going to develop a digital, currency, Bitcoin-like thing? Well, actually, I've heard the same things about Western countries, United States. Russia has developed a digital ruble. No, they aren't taking away people's cards. They aren't taking away cash. In fact, they've, released a bunch of new bills lately for replacing coins to make it easier for people to carry money. So, you have to be careful about what you hear. You have to look at the history of things. Now, has BRICS had discussion about a currency? Yeah, they did that, at their last meeting, which was in South Africa. And at that time, they said, we're not actively looking at it. Now, what BRICS is looking at is doing transactions between BRICS countries using the Chinese yuan. So, they're kind of standardizing around what they say they're fighting in the dollar, but giving one country control over the currency as being the currency that they, exchange in. Now, is who I would like to have that discussion with and get some honest input from is Natalia from Moscow, who's involved with BRICS. I've talked to her back, at election time, and, I don't know if you've had emails with her or not. I know
No, I haven't, and I want to bring her on the program. I need to get her email address from you again, actually. So
yep, I'll send it to you. I got it
yeah.
sitting here in front of me. So
yeah, because I've been meaning to do that, but just every day is just another flood of stories. So got to make a point
Yeah.
of doing that. Yeah.
So you had a question or a comment you wanted to bring up?
Well, I was kind of curious about exactly what you were talking about and how you see kind of BRICS impacting the U.S. economy, because as I'm looking at what is going on with this latest meeting coming up, we're seeing Russia pushing for a new kind of relationship with these BRICS nations. We're seeing more countries joining them. I'm seeing that whole setup as being like a major pressure point for the West and a major pressure point for the U.S. economy. And if they're successful in setting all this up, and they obviously are achieving a great degree of success with this, I think it puts the West in a really in jeopardy, really. The U.S., the dominance of the U.S. dollar globally is in jeopardy, and if that falls, if it's no longer the world reserve currency, or maybe only for half the planet, and the U.S. is carrying trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in debt, it will make it. I mean, it's already, I think, impossible for them to pay off what they owe. So I see on the horizon massive inflation, a massive breakdown in the economic system, a crash like we've never seen before, possibly a depression that would make the 1930s look like prosperity. and I don't mean to fearmonger here, but honestly, to go, it's because the U.S. has become so big, so huge with their economic bubble around the world that you take a pin and you stick it in there and you take 50% of that away, or even
Yeah.
30%, and it's just going to go.
Well, and when you consider that, the U.S. debt is growing, I mean, tremendously on a daily basis. They don't even have the spending under control. And, it's just print more money. But like you say, historically, they've controlled the entire world with the dollar-based system. And, as much as I heard, somebody in Europe, some high-level guy earlier today, I don't remember who, talking about, Russia weaponized their energy. Well, what has the United States done with the dollar? Through sanctions. They've weaponized the dollar. They've weaponized the SWIFT system. So, the thing to remember about BRICS is they're supposedly strictly an economic answer to the dollar-based system. So that is going to happen. And like you say, what are the consequences of it? I don't know. I don't think the dollar is ever going to go away. And I don't think the SWIFT system will ever go away. But BRICS is in the process of developing their own payment processing system as well.
Right.
So it's all economic.
Well,
And-
these policies of using sanctions as a weapon, a tool, on the one hand, it's, I guess, maybe a good idea so you don't have to drop bombs on people, or not that you have to drop bombs on people, but I'd maybe rather see sanctions instead of bombs. But at the same time, you can do just as much damage and kill just as many people with economic sanctions as you can by dropping bombs. And when you're doing that, ultimately, you're going to get people upset with you to the point where you undermine confidence in your economic system. Who wants to engage in an economic system where the dollar is being held over your head as a threat, really, to your nation state, right? It's not good trade practice.
Yeah. I agree fully, and historically sanctions haven't worked well. Nobody jumped up and down about sanctions against Iran. Yet people also don't look at the fact that Iran has been very successful in developing their internal economies, their relationships with other people under sanctions. And, they have some of the most highly advanced weapons out there as a result of these sanctions. So have sanctions prevented bombs from dropping on anyone, or have they actually exacerbated the issue? The stated goal of sanctions back in 2022 against Russia was to literally harm the civilian population of Russia and get them to rise up and throw Putin out of office. Well, that certainly has backfired. So Russia's done the same thing as Iran. They've developed their internal industries. They're, it was like, well, they're never going to be able to fly a plane again because they can't get parts from the West. So they developed their own. Now they're making 100% Russian-built airliners. And, what does that mean? It means that Western countries who used to provide those parts have lost a great income and they will never regain it. Now, will they lose some more if Russia starts competing internationally with, many of these BRICS nations, again, at an economic level? Yeah, it's going to hurt more. You've got companies like Boeing who are already being looked at for cutting corners and trying to reduce costs, selling off divisions to contractors who may or may not be providing the same quality Boeing used to. and now they're finding themselves in some financial trouble.
Well, this already is. We look at what's going on with BRICS, and it in China. It reminds me of a conversation I had some years ago with a fella I know who started a company here importing lifts for cars, hoists for in garages, and for car restoration hobbyists and so on. And he went to China to source these lifts so he could resell them in volume over here in Canada. And he toured the factory, and it was massive. And he said that as he was touring the place with the guy who runs the factory, I guess, whatever title he has, he said, you have enough capacity here to supply the whole world with lifts. And the guy turns, the factory manager turns and says, yes, that's right. that's what we want to do. We want to supply the whole world with these lifts. Now, that being said, I guess that's why the United States sees China as such a serious competitor and maybe even an economic threat, because they're focused on dominating, some industries in that way, and their approach is a lot different than what we get here in the West.
And on the other hand, are they really looking to dominate, or are they already dominating? Where was your microphone built?
Yep.
My iPhone, I know exactly where it comes from. It's an American product, but I know where it's built.
Right.
Back in my working days, not too long ago, I often traveled to Chinese laptop manufacturers or Taiwanese laptop manufacturers. And, you can go into one of these factories and they manufacture everybody's laptop. So people talk about, well, my HP laptop is better than your Toshiba, which is better than this cheap Chinese brand. Yet, one of the times I was in one of these factories, I went in with a brand new Toshiba laptop, and they said, gee, we haven't seen that model before. Can we borrow it for 5 minutes? And I was like, well, sure. Well, 6 months later, they're, on the electronic shelves under another brand name, the exact same one. And I only knew that it was the exact same model because I could see the signatures that I had in the embedded software in the one model that now showed up in the other models. So, they've been doing this for years. That was 20 years ago, so are they really the big threat that they claim to be, or is this just another excuse for a country that has shipped all of their production, most of it, offshore to save money?
Yeah, to maximize profits, essentially, by taking advantage of lower wages or less regulation, so that their costs overall are reduced, or maybe they don't have to pay as much in benefits. But the bottom line is they see cheaper costs and maybe a workforce that is just more efficient in some way. So, yeah. The United States, Canada, we've outsourced so much. We've shipped our production. Our industrial base is gone. We have some, but manufacturing, so much of it is gone. That's why here we have a chain of stores called Canadian Tire, and I call it China Tire, because when you go in, everything that they sell is made in China anymore, right? Even the tires, for the most part. A few tires still made in North America, but a lot of them made in China. It's China Tire now.
Yep.
It's funny.
I put supposedly German plumbing in my house. My plumber was so big on, these are good, high quality German pipes. But if you looked at them before he installed them, it was German company, but they all said made in China.
Yep. So, you go to China Tire here in Canada, and you go to the plumbing section because it's a hardware store, and you pick out your taps. I think all of them are made in China. Even the higher end brands like Peerless and Delta that were always made in North America. I had to put some taps in the house here recently, and you can pay more here or less there, but it's all made in China, all of it.
Yeah.
Couldn't find anything not made in China. So who do we have to blame? It's just ourselves,
exactly.
really.
Capitalism. Oh wait, no, I'm starting to sound like a socialist now.
Dragon, you're back. I see you walking around out there still. Any luck, sir? Have you found us any graffiti?
No, I've asked the policers in my behind me, and they don't even know where that is. So it's kind of weird. I'm asking myself if it wasn't done somewhere where I'm not able to access, for example, behind the barricade. That must be one thing, but
Yeah.
that's one thing I got to check
so what
out.
you're saying is maybe where the encampment is, there's this area where they won't let you walk. There is the protesters or occupiers, however you want to characterize
Phrase it.
They're not allowing certain people to go beyond a certain point. So it might be over there in an area that you can't access because they're preventing you from going there.
Well, that's one part of the question I'm asking myself. Why don't I stumble on such a big issue or a big piece of art? So
Yeah. Huh. Well.
And actually, Kevin, I want to ask you one little thing. If you remember the H1N1 pandemic back in 2000, right?
Yep.
This is where actually the European Union did change all currency for the European currency, because actually they were all getting on bankrupt, if I do remember well.
What are you talking about? I don't know. I haven't got any idea what he's talking about. Do you know what he's talking about?
Back at the end of the 90s, when the European Union decided to bring basically all the dollars or the currency in Europe into the European or the euro.
He's not talking about the creation of the euro.
Yeah. To add to your
okay.
conversation about, the Brits and what might be going on right now and in a near future with all what's going on.
I just looked up the date to just get it right. So the euro was launched 1st of January 1999. And for the first 3 years, it was an invisible currency only used for accounting purposes and electronic payments. Coins and banknotes were launched on the 1st of January 2002. And in 12 EU countries, the biggest cash changeover in history took place at that time. But do you think it was because of the H1N1 virus?
Well, basically what happened, if my memory is correct and I'm not mistaken, what happened is that after the H1N1, or while the H1N1, basically everyone was getting into, we were getting into a recession back then, right? And that was kind of forced by the pandemic kind of thing. So it's kind of what we're seeing today with the COVID pandemic and the ongoing economic situation that everyone's been into. Why are we talking about now about CBDC or digital currency? I would argue that, it's kind of the new euro dollar kind of thing from the days now being being implemented to get the situation, the economic situation back to order.
I'm supplementing what I remember about the creation of the euro with some information I just brought up on screen here. And so as I understand it, the euro was introduced because it was an effort to deepen economic integration into Europe. It was aimed at streamlining and facilitating cross-border trade and investments
Trade, yeah.
to enhance economic stability in Europe. The benefits that were cited at the time by the nations involved was by adopting a single currency, European countries eliminated exchange rate uncertainties, reducing transaction costs for both the businesses involved and consumers. And then this Eurozone, which comprised 19 countries, had bigger economies of scale as a result. That made the Euro countries a more formidable economic trading bloc globally. So you've got massive economies of scale now, all working together under one currency. Now you had political implications from that. So you had the euro, which symbolized European unity and integration, promoting peace and stability in a historically turbulent region. At least that's the way they promoted it. It was supposed to foster anyway cooperation among member states, aligning their policies and objectives. I guess in a way you could almost say it was a globalist vision, right? And you did have global influence. So you had the euro then competing with the US dollar, kind of like the BRICS nations, as a global reserve currency, increasing Europe's geopolitical influence and its stability and liquidity, then attracted investors from all over the world, bolstering the international role of the European Union. You had, the U.S. not entirely happy about it, but you had these challenges and you had some people criticizing it. But even though you had all these successes, the euro faced challenges, including divergent economic performances from even within the Eurozone itself. Critics argued that a single monetary policy may not suit all the economies, leading to disparities and tensions within the Eurozone. So all of that happening, and then you ended up with Brexit. So
There's a lot of culmination since 1990.
well, yeah, I mean, you integrate economies like that, and I think you also give up some degree of your sovereignty, right, as a nation state too, because you're kind of integrated, but you get bigger economies of scale. So there are pluses and minuses on both sides, but I don't remember the H1N1 playing into it myself. Kevin, Dragon, what do you?
I don't remember the two being tied, but yeah, it was the same time frame. Now, like you say, Rick, the control it gives, the powers that be. What do you have in the European Union right now? Now they have the European Council, who is in charge of the euro, telling countries like Hungary, if you don't apply sanctions to Russia or you don't quit buying oil from them, we're not going to give you money. Mm-hmm. When it was first rolled out, I remember all those European countries wanting to hop on. I remember many Romanians were against it, and it actually broke many of them. They would be, have millions of Romanian, whatever their dollars were at the time. And, I still got some in my desk drawer. I've got a million Romanian bill, and at the time it was worth about 50 US bucks, and then all of a sudden it became worth zero because some of the countries just dumped their currency for the euro, and they said on this date everything is now euro. So was it implemented right? I don't know. It just, many countries, Denmark, I know people in Denmark that refuse to use it other than when they're traveling in the European Union, and they still use the krona in Denmark. So,
well, the ability for a country to control its own currency is one of the things that gives it sovereignty. You
Yeah.
have to have economic separation. You need to be able to make your own economic decisions to determine your own economic destiny, to develop your own fiscal policies, economic policies, and from that flow your social programs and anything else that you want to do as a country. So a nation state's economy is integral to its ability to function and even its identity, even its cultural identity, I would argue. So if you are integrating your economy at that level into a European Union or a union of any kind, to that level, you're giving up a great degree of your autonomy, your sovereignty, and your ability to self-determine as a nation state what your destiny is going to be. So it's a slippery slope, I would say, but at the same time, there are other advantages that come with it in terms of economies of scale. But that's why we saw Brexit happen.
Yeah, and this is why BRICS talks about not developing a currency in general for people, but just for cross-border transactions. So,
and then, yeah, I mean, after World War II, the use of the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency, that's what has allowed the United States to dominate as the world superpower in a singularity, a unipolar geopolitical environment for a time after the end of the Cold War, for a short time, to sort of dominate economically, globally. So I don't know. These are just larger economic questions, but yeah. Anyway, an interesting take on it there, Dragon, with the H1N1 virus. I just don't really remember it playing out quite that way.
Well, actually, it was something that I kind of remember, and I was kind of being anxious of what was going on back then, economically and geopolitically, in a way. So this is why I do remember this this part of my past, if you will.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
And it was a lot of talk back then. So, yeah,
Well,
stood fresh in my mind.
Well, I'll leave you to walk around a little bit more, Dragon. If you can't, wait a second. What's that building right behind you there? What is that? Have you arrived at the building in question?
Yeah, well,
You're
actually,
standing right in front of it, I think.
yeah, well, there's a beautiful building here, but there's it's more like vine and stuff like that. There's no, I don't see any sign of graffiti around.
Like I can't stop for a sec. Stop. Can you just turn your camera so we can see the front of that building?
Yep.
And pan up.
Sorry. This way?
Yeah. Okay, pan up so I can see the top of the building. Pan up. Is that the building?
Looks like it. But
Let's go back to Google here.
But there's another building around there, actually, if you can see probably in that direction. Yeah, right there. This building looks also what it is, because there's like 4 pillars at the entrance, but there's no graffiti at the entrance. So I'm still strolling around, and because there's a lot of building and surrounding here, which pretty much look like what it is.
I'm going to bring that building. Well, here's the image. That doesn't look quite the same there, so I don't know if that's the right one. I'll bring that video up, though, that we had.
Well, I was just in front of it, I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but
I'm going to find that video again so we can. There it is there. I'll bring it back up on the screen. We might just have ourselves a case of severe disinformation. I don't know. Let's bring it up.
I just hope not.
Okay, so here's the video. Is that this? That's not the same building.
No.
No, it's not.
There's a part at the end of the video right there. I've seen something like pretty much, it was close. Okay, in the hall. All right, I think. I'm not sure, but sounds like it is this building here. Right there. Don't know if you can see it right here.
Yeah.
But as you can see, there's nothing looks like graffiti around. There's nothing. And there's that statue, I think, where you can see the black graffiti on your video.
Yeah, point
the
the camera
segment.
at the building there, Greg, when you're walking over so we can see it. Pan down a little bit. That looks like it. That looks like the building.
Mhm.
Looks
But
like
I mean, if I can zoom you, kind of thing.
yeah, walk
know,
up closer to. There seems to be some graffiti down on the bottom there.
That's a. I think it's kind of a.
Can you
It's
when
not a
you're
graffiti.
yeah, can you try to shoot the building for us instead of the ground
Mhm.
when you're walking around? That's better.
So that's what it
That's
looks
the
like.
building. That looks
Yeah.
like it.
But I see no graffiti. That's one little the statue
Again,
that you can see.
yeah,
I think.
point it at the building, Dragon, so we can see what we're talking about. Keep in mind that when you're doing this, people, the camera misses nothing. So let's try to keep the camera focused on the subject matter. And
Little red sign to the right of the column.
The red sign here.
yeah, walk right
The-
up to the building and show us what that is.
Yeah, that's
on
the
building.
McCall McBain building.
Yeah. So what's the one in the video? Yeah.
No banners.
Oh.
Green paint splattered all over it.
Well,
Not there
Is it-
now.
if I can zoom in on those brick, you can see green, right? But there's nothing that you can make of what it is. I mean, it's all blurred, everything.
Maybe
so-
it was there and they power washed it off already.
Well, as you can see, there's probably a little pound of water here, colorish, blue, probably kind of. Yeah, they have probably already have spread some cleaning matters on it and cleaned the whole thing. But as you can see, this is what the building looked like, and yeah, there's nothing. It's probably well, look, hold on. I'm not sure if you can see that. I'm gonna zoom it for you right here. You see, you can see an R here,
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
and
an
then A. Yeah. So, okay,
Can you-
this is probably. Sorry.
Well, can you tell us what it says?
No. I think there's the F word here because I see a F, a U, and a C, and yeah, okay, you can make it up. But that's what
Okay.
it is. I think it's the only word I can make up here.
Interesting.
So that's maybe the only sign I have right now.
Just try to match up what we see. Well, here, how about if I do this? You over to the side. So let me just. So there it says free. I guess it's supposed to say Palestine, free Gaza on the steps there. I can't quite make out what it says. McGill something. No occupation was spray painted in red. My guess is it was there, and it's been washed
well-
off.
Hold on, there's like there's two pine like these, right, in the photo.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's take a look closer because I think yes, you can see reminiscence probably, but it was well cleaned.
Yeah, it was there.
And there's also this one that I cannot make up much what it is.
Yeah, it's dark.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, can't see it here.
So it was cleaned out.
Yeah, so they've gone in there with power washers and they've tried to scrub it.
Hmm.
Still,
I'm
some
gonna
signs
look
of
on
it.
the other side closer if I can see anything, because I had to be close enough to make up anything out of it.
What a
and no.
mess, though. I mean, what a mess that was.
So that's not. No, there's nothing on this wall. So I'm at
But
the
I think we've seen
McKay
enough to know
McBain
that the video is
building.
real. It's just that it's not from sometime
It's
today.
probably something that was a long time ago, and they are
Well,
trying to
probably
gaslight.
probably not. No, probably not a long time ago, because of the words that were written in the thing. It looks like it's Free Palestine, clearly spray painted on the building.
Well,
So it's definitely related to this.
if you can look at this still here,
Oh,
you can
yes.
see red paint right here.
Yeah. Well, we've seen that defaced before with graffiti because they want the university renamed. They don't like McGill because of the history of slavery that they say.
Yeah, it was
Is
spread
related to
all
him.
around. It was
Yeah.
spread all around.
It looks like fairly fresh red at the top of that inscription there.
Yeah.
Right here. Right here, it's looked pretty fresh. So they have already scrubbed the whole thing. And there's a sign of a triangle. That's what I can make out of it. So that's probably a clue for our investigation right here. Let's think like an investigator here.
Well, I think it's pretty clear what's happened. That it's a real video. It really happened. Those words were spray painted. It's authentic. We've matched the building. The trees match. The building matches. Everything matches. It absolutely was spray painted on the building. When, it's not entirely clear, but it's got to be very recent because the phrases all relate to the protest that's going on there right now, and it's pretty clear that it's been power washed off the building, and we're still seeing just some shadows of what was spray painted on the structures. So we've solved the mystery.
And just real quick, I'm going toward the encampment, and if I can get a closer look for you, you will see tonight that the encampment has been growing in size.
Growing.
No,
Really?
it's growing. Actually, the lady that you can see on the photo that I've sent you, she told me that actually there's a lot of people from other campuses that comes here to protest and show support. So it's kind of a blend of a lot of campuses surrounding Montreal. So
Okay, I'll tell you what, Dragon. I'm gonna let you go walk over where you're gonna walk. We'll take a little break here. I'll keep talking with Kevin, and we'll come back to you in just a few minutes. Okay?
Roger.
Oops. Let's remove that. And there you go. So Kevin, I know that it's really late where you are, so I don't want to keep you up all night. Do you have any final thoughts on our original subject matter here, which is everything going on with the war in Ukraine?
I tossed this one towards you earlier today, and I saw it go by in chat a couple of times. Somebody asking about Shoigu being fired.
Oh.
And, Shoigu was the Minister of Defense up until Putin changed his cabinet this last week. Was he fired? Actually, Shoigu was talking about retirement just before the start of this special military operation. And he was asked to stay on to lead it for a while. So he did. So what's happened is Putin has put him in charge of the Security Council. So he's now head of the Security Council in Russia, which is a job Medvedev had. Haven't heard what's happened to Medvedev. But the guy that they put in Shoigu's place as the Minister of Defense is an economist. And Putin said he wanted a pure civilian leader in the Department of Defense, which is much the same way it's supposed to be for the United States. It's supposed to be a civilian-filled position. So even when they put a military man in, they're supposed to be retired for like 10 years in the U.S. So this guy is an economist, and Putin's statement for putting him in charge is that he wanted new ideas brought in. There's a lot of talk in the media here that it's likely he was brought in because there was supposed corruption. This is something we've heard Shoigu accused of by various, republic heads and whatnot here. And, so they've got an economist who is going to likely tighten the screws on the military industrial complex in Russia. And, they have several military projects like the unmanned UAVs that they've been working on that are far, far behind schedule. And they're figuring that he will bring all of these projects in line and under monetary control, I guess. So that's kind of what happened to Shoigu. He was wanting to retire, and it's very likely it was at his request that he was put into this other role. This role in Russia is considered a retirement package. We're going to give you something relatively important to do that, will give you income coming in, but it doesn't take a lot of effort other than running your mouth a lot. Which is what Medvedev did. So.
That's true. That's true. All right. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us on the program tonight.
Always my pleasure, Rick.
Yeah. Tonight for us, it's very early in the morning for you.
Yep.
Just briefly, just tell people how to find your work again.
You can find me, down. Gee, I'll get this pointing thing down on camera yet. On YouTube at American Crimea, or at InfoWars Press is my other channel. Depends on if you want to hear about life in Crimea, or if you want to hear about, propaganda stuff, how to detect it, things that are.
All right. Kevin Michelizzi, thank you, sir. We'll
Thanks,
chat
Rick.
again real soon. Thank you very, very much.
Bye.
Okay, I'll be back, folks, right after this. Don't go away.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, I'm back. I just wanted to mention that Kamala Harris, Vice President, dropped the F-bomb today. People are making a big deal out of it. I guess, if the president, when you're in a position like that, people expect a little bit more. But let's bring Dragon back up here. It looks like he's got something for us. There he is. You're back. Do you have something there for us, Dragon?
Which channel is it?
Maverick, sorry. Hi, what's
Hi.
up, guys? How you doing?
Yeah. Good. Yeah, it looked like maybe you had
I'm
something
working,
to share
sorry.
with us.
No, I'm asking which channel.
This one.
We
So, how you doing? Sorry,
Good.
I got someone who's talking to me, so I'm trying
Yeah, go
to.
ahead there. We'll just let it roll while you talk.
So yeah, as you can see, I didn't find any graffiti or anything that is substantial. So yeah, that's what it is. But I got something good for you. A beautiful
Yeah.
view.
I see.
You can see on the top of the camps. But yeah, this is what it is. A beautiful
able
day in
to-
Montreal.
Are you able to walk over and give us an aerial view from that railing over there?
Yeah, I'm gonna try.
Okay. Was that
So-
guy talking to you about something, or? Was that
Yeah, he
important?
was. No, I don't think so. I think he was more trying to not let me show what's going on. But yeah, this is what looks like behind the encampment. This is the first
Kind of,
view that you get
yeah,
live
trees in the
in
way there, but yeah.
well, Maverick Media. Beautiful.
Yeah. Maybe you can walk over to the corner there, Dragon, and get us a better. Ooh, we lost his feed. Lost his feed. Well, he'll be back in a moment. I expect. Here, you know what? Let's take a break, and when he comes back, we'll touch base with him again, and then we'll get into Kamala Harris and her F-bomb. Oh, hang on. There he is. He's back. There he is. Okay,
There he is.
Reconnected.
Yeah,
can you,
it's like this.
yeah, walk over to the corner of the railing. Get away from that tree, which is obstructing your view, and then just maybe, yeah, point the camera down so we can get a good idea of what it looks like here the best we can. Just hold the camera steady. Don't move it around quite so much so it's a little more stable. There we go. Any idea how many tents we have there in this encampment?
If I can count roughly.
You keep pointing it at the tents, Dragon, so that we're looking at what we're talking about. Yeah.
I would say probably about 60, maybe.
60? 60?
Yeah, because there's some few around there in under the tarp, so it's kind of hard to estimate, but I will estimate about 60 tent all around the campment.
And
as you
any
can see.
idea how many people are there tonight? We had, I think you said about 250 the last time we were live from McGill.
Mhm.
And you say it seems to be growing?
Yeah, it's growing. The campment is growing in size, but the supporter actually are pretty much. Well, today it's kind of rainy, right? So it's kind of probably that the people are not much around. Probably, if you can see around there, there's like some people around. I would probably say I'm counting probably 50 people in on the campus site. So
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
kind of
Well,
that's
that
the
gives
best
us
way I can.
I think it gives us, a good indication of what's going on there tonight, and we'll continue to follow this story and see if the university gets its injunction to have the encampment removed. And I guess if that happens, we'll see police move in and dismantle everything, and we've seen what that looks like on other campuses, and in some cases it has been violent. Hopefully it doesn't come to that here.
I hope
Hopefully it
not.
remains peaceful and nobody gets hurt.
Well,
We'll have
actually,
to-
I'm trying to look into what's going on also with some Palestinian organization around the world, which like the PLO and all those organizations, which kind of supposedly have some ties with what's going on. So, I mean, is there something in there? I don't know. So more investigation, more digging in.
Okay, well, we'll leave it with you. Sir, thank you very much for your help tonight.
My pleasure, Mavericks.
Really
Always a
appreciate it.
pleasure to help you out.
Okay. Dragon, everybody. Tell everybody how they can watch you and follow you online.
I'm on Twitter at the one Rising Dragon. Same name on YouTube, and DRA/GON on Facebook. That's my name, where you can find me, and send me some stuff if need. I can probably show some sites to people, and well, there you go. You got all my links.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure.
Everybody. Dragon at McGill University. All right. I will take a break and come back, and we'll get into some of these other stories from today. Stay with me.
Fighting the Great Reset by leading the Great Resistance. Maverick News. The antivirus programs for your mind.
Okay, so, yeah, Kamala Harris dropped the F-bomb today. Everybody seems to think that's a big deal. She was offering advice to young Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders about how to break through barriers. She was participating in a conversation which was moderated by actor and comedian Jimmy O. Jimmy O Yang. I don't even know who that is because I'm so old. So anyway, he asks her what it means to be the first vice president of Asian descent and how that heritage has informed her views and roles as a leader. So we know that Kamala Harris's mom was from India and her father was from Jamaica. So anyway, she says this, and then the Twitter sphere goes all a Twitter.
This is part of what's involved, is that we have to know that sometimes people will open the door for you and leave it open, sometimes they won't. And then you need to kick that fucking door down. Excuse my language.
We're gonna make t-shirts with that saying, kick the door down.
That laugh. I just, it's kind of a cackle. Just, oh man. Okay. Everybody's all up, whatever. Back in the day, the early days of the motion picture industry, you couldn't show a man and a woman in bed with each other, and then they had a code, a motion picture code for certain standards, censorship, and then you fast forward to like the 80s, and they had blue movies on late at night, but you couldn't really see that stuff on television. And even the stuff on late at night, it was all very like soft-core blue movies. Now, today, it's pouring everywhere. And, if anybody ever dropped an F, I knew people who lost their jobs in newsrooms because they dropped an F-bomb by accident on the air, radio stations and TV stations. Now, it seems to happen all the time. Our standards have slipped a whole lot, folks, and I don't know, people are making a big deal out of this, but when I see how far we've gone down that slippery slope, so other people are saying it's not a big deal. Maybe it is a big deal, but maybe it's a big deal the other way. Maybe it's time to start dialing this stuff back. This loose language. People laughed about it there, but yeah, it's the Vice President of the United States, and the President, even Trump with his language, maybe it's time for him to dial it back a notch too. Just saying. Community standards, sure a lot different today than they used to be. Now, Pat King in court today, freedom fighter, prominent figure during the Freedom Convoy. Well, I do need to take a short break again, and when we come back, we'll show you what happened with him today at day one of his trial. All of it connected to the Freedom Convoy, the Freedom Convoy protest on Parliament Hill. Stay with me.
The information war is raging. Truth without integrity is worth nothing. Maverick News. because those who have power and those who seek it must be held accountable.
The world is watching.
Join our family of truth seekers. Donate today and add your voice to the chorus of Maverick Knights. Donate at maverickdonations.com. Truth. Integrity. It's the Maverick way. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so day one of the trial for Pat King in Ottawa. Daisy Media on the scene as usual, and he has a number of videos about this up today. You can certainly check out his work. This is what it looked like as he was leaving court today after entering a plea of not guilty.
You are the most honorable man. You are the most honorable man.
Hey, Lynn.
Good job, everybody. Good job. Thank you, proud for being a hero. Mainstream media gets zero comment. No comment for the Lion media.
There you go, Daisy Media. That's the way it was as Pat King rolled out of court. And as I say, he entered a plea of not guilty today. He's charged with mischief, counseling others to commit mischief, disobeying a court order, obstructing police, blocking a highway, and other offenses. All of them related to his involvement in the 3-week-long Freedom Convoy demonstration over pandemic mandates. And if he's found guilty, he could potentially go to jail for years on some of these charges. I'll tell you, if that happens, I think you would see a major backlash from the public. He is very popular figurehead within the freedom movement, or whatever it has become. Whatever still exists as a result of that, and whatever it's evolved into, Pat King still commands a large online social media audience, and is still, as you saw there, as he was getting high fives from people leaving the courthouse, he has some pretty devoted fans. Back to Ukraine for a moment. Canada's defense minister today holding a news conference at the Canadian Embassy in Washington. He gave a speech today to the Atlantic Council. He held a bilateral meeting earlier at the Pentagon with his American counterpart, Lloyd Austin. And also he's meeting with American cybersecurity and defense industry leaders in Washington during what will amount to a 2-day visit. All of this is aimed at advancing Canada's relationship within the defense field with the United States. All right, let's pick up his news conference here, where he's going to make a statement, a very, very brief statement, and then answer some questions.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much. I think the forum that we all just attended was a very interesting one, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. I understand some of you may have questions, and so I'm happy to respond. Katie.
Hi, Minister Blair. Katie Simpson, CBC News. Something that you did not mention at the talk that you just, or the Q&A session you just did. I'm curious, did you discuss at all the situation in the Middle East with Secretary Austin and the U.S. threat to stop sending weapons to Israel if Israel does go ahead with an offensive in Rafah? And what is Canada's position on that U.S. threat?
Well, first of all, of course, Secretary Austin and I spoke about a number of threats that are happening around the world. We did talk about the situation in the Middle East. We talked about the Israel-Gaza situation, but also in the Red Sea and the threat that the Houthi are bringing to international trade and waterways in the region. We did have discussions about the situation in Israel. Canada's position, I think, has been well articulated and clear. We support Israel's right to exist and to defend itself as a nation. We condemn the terrorist attack committed by Hamas. We call for the release of hostages, but we have also expressed our very strong concern, as have the United States, about the impact on innocent civilian lives in the conflict in Gaza, and our ongoing concern about innocent civilians in the Rafah area of Gaza, and we both strongly believe and support that we should find a way to increase humanitarian aid and help those innocent civilians get to a place of safety.
Yes, but on this specific new proposal by the United States, does Canada support the United States if it stops supplying weapons to Israel, if Israel does go ahead with an offensive in Rafah?
Well, again, I have great respect for the United States making its own determinations on that. I can also share with you that Canada has also expressed our concern about the loss of life among innocent civilians in that conflict. We have our own very rigorous regime for the export of all military equipment to every country, and since the beginning of this year, Canada has not issued any new export permits for military equipment to Israel. We are also watching very carefully as the conflict continues there to ensure compliance with our very rigorous export regime before we resume any future assistance to Israel.
If there are no other reporters, I'll ask more questions. Does anyone else want to? Okay, I'll ask a couple more if that's okay. Has American pressure on Canada to increase defense spending, has that had any sort of influence on how you make the decisions about what Canada is going to be putting towards defense spending?
Listen, all of our allies, including, of course, the United States, but certainly our NATO allies, I've met with them very many times. We've talked about our shared obligations to global peace, to deterrence of potential adversaries, and also with the United States, many conversations about our shared responsibility to continental defense and security. Certainly in those conversations, I've asked for the Secretary's help because I want to make sure that we make the right investments and we get the best value for those investments for Canadian taxpayers in developing greater capability in our nation's defense, but also in fulfilling our obligations to our allies at NATO, NORAD, and now in the Indo-Pacific. And so that help has always been forthcoming. It's quite frankly, Katie, it's a really valued partnership. I really feel that I'm receiving remarkable support from our allies, and we also acknowledge to them Canada must and will do more.
And did I hear correctly during your Q&A session that if Canada does go ahead with purchasing a new submarine fleet, that you are confident that with that purchase, Canada will finally meet the 2% of GDP spending?
I believe we have got a number of investments which we've identified must be made. I've got a responsibility to do the work to make sure that when we spend Canadian taxpayer dollars, we're doing it well and we're creating the best possible value for those investments. But we are going to need a new underwater surveillance capability, i.e. submarines. We're also going to have to make some other very significant investments to replace our tank fleet, for example, to build out that integrated air missile defense system that is required here in North America. I'm very confident that those investments, when we've done the preliminary work of identifying what's required to meet our armed forces' requirements, and also explored what's available to enable us to acquire those capabilities, then I'll bring that information forward to my government. Canada recognizes, first of all, I think through our new defense policy update, we're doing a great deal more on defense. But we acknowledge that even beyond these announcements and what has already been fully funded in our defense policy update, there's more to do. I've got more work to do to bring that information forward to the government and to the Canadian people, but I am confident that Canada will do what is required.
And I'll do one more if no one just checking. I'll go. Oh, there are. Oh, okay. Good. Other people want to go. Sorry.
Thank you.
Would line up. Sorry.
Hello.
Hi, Vanessa Montalbano with Inside Defense. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about Canada's perspective on China's ability and the timeline of that to infiltrate the North American airspace.
Well, first of all, Canada is absolutely committed to upholding the international rules-based order that has kept our country and the globe safe for over 80 years. We have seen in our efforts with our allies, for example, transiting through certain waterways, that has elicited a bit of a challenge from China, but we believe very strongly, it's not our intention to be provocative, but we believe very strongly in standing up for the principle of free navigation of those international waterways. We've also seen some other adversarial actions in the cyber front and even on surveillance and data collection by China, that their interests are not always consistent or compatible with our national interest. And I will make sure that we clearly communicate that and we stand up for those international principles and rules that have in fact kept us all safe.
And just one follow-up, what might the offensive or defensive reaction be if a Chinese aircraft, say, does enter North American, the area of interest, the North American airspace?
I think that our response needs to be well coordinated with our allies and also proportional for whatever threat presents itself. I don't want to speculate too much on a hypothetical, but I also think that standing up for that principle of the integrity and sovereignty of our borders also requires that we have the capability to put action behind our words. I think ultimately the best way to resolve those matters peacefully is through diplomatic channels, and we're absolutely committed to do that. But as well, we need to be well prepared, no matter who challenges our sovereignty, that we are prepared to stand and defend it.
Thank you.
Hi, sir. Chris Gordon, Air and Space Force Magazine. You just discussed gaining the capability to ensure a nation doesn't encroach in the airspace. But does that suggest you don't have that capability now, or it's lacking?
No, it needs to be stronger. We have domain awareness capabilities in the high Arctic right now that we share with our NATO partner, the United States. But we know we need to make greater investment in over-the-horizon radar so that we will have stronger situational awareness, but also enable us to respond appropriately to any threat that may manifest itself. We also have a fleet of fighter jets, but we are replacing them with a greater capability. There are other investments we're making in our submarine surveillance fleet, the Poseidon P-8s. That will bring us very much in alignment with our allies, but also create a capability. I currently have deployed a number of C-140 aircraft. Our crews do an exceptional job there. But it's time to move into the next generation of those planes and capabilities because the threat environment is becoming more complex, and we have to meet the moment and answer that challenge.
There was a lot spoken of domain awareness gaps when we had the balloon incidents. Have those been closed satisfactorily?
The balloon incident, I think, was a good wake-up call for all of us, that we needed to do more. It really put a lot of energy behind NORAD modernization, for example, because we saw the limitation of our existing domain awareness assets. And at the same time, I think it also showed the strength of our alliance through NORAD, because we worked seamlessly together with the United States as that passed over Canadian territory and into the United States. And so I think there are lessons to be learned on that. They're being well synthesized by NORAD Command. And we also recognize some of the investments we are committed to making are in many ways justified by the concerns raised by that particular incident and a number of other things as well.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Can I ask one more quick one for Murray Brewster back in Ottawa. Sorry. What was Lloyd
One
Austin's
more,
response
and
to
we'll
your conversation today? Is the United States satisfied with what Canada is doing in terms of its new military investments?
I would not presume to speak for the Secretary of Defense Austin, but certainly as he's communicated to me, he is very encouraged by the very significant new investments Canada is making in defense. I think he agrees with our focus in particular on continental defense and our commitment to NORAD. And at the same time, I hope that he was also encouraged by my assurances that Canada has more to do and that we will do more to support the alliance and to reach our commitment of 2% of GDP.
Thank you very much, everyone.
All right, there you go. Bill Blair, Canada's National Defense Minister, in Washington today. That ship that knocked over the Baltimore Bridge, the Dolly container ship, Francis Scott Key Bridge, yeah, it was back in March. That ship has been trapped ever since, but today there was a controlled explosion that brought down the last part of the bridge that was still there and was trapping that ship. We have a little bit of footage here to show you what happened here at the moment of the blast. Here we go. So this is what they did to break that ship free today.
Free.
Not quite as dramatic as the initial impact when the ship knocked that whole bridge over. That was back on March 26th. That ship, 940 feet long, lost power, drifted into the bridge. That bridge serves as the unofficial gateway to a harbor formed when the Patapsco River, where the Patapsco River meets the Chesapeake Bay. 6 workers who were working on the bridge died that day. Baltimore is in the top 20 U.S. ports for shipping, and I think it's right near the top for the importation of automobiles. So they continue to work to get things moving there in the port, and they'll have to rebuild the bridge. A bridge really built for a different time. Built way back in the 70s, and the ships today are a whole lot bigger than they were back then. And the bridges today, as a result, when they're building them, have much more robust protections in place around the bases. So when they rebuild, I'm sure they will take this disaster into account. And a lot of theories still circulating around the cause of that ship losing power, etc. But we'll find out more as time goes on. Well, folks, that gets us pretty close to, I think, the end of tonight's broadcast. That being said, Dragon doing great work out there. Thank you again to Kevin for joining us on the program, as always. Thank you to Lori for alerting us to that graffiti at McGill University. She's the one actually who sent that video over to us overnight just to alert us, and then Dragon went on the hunt to confirm that it was real, and indeed we could see that it was washed away now, though, or at least they attempted to wash it away, but the shadows of that graffiti still in place there tonight. And the encampment remains in place. The protests continue, not just at McGill, but the University of Quebec, many campuses in the United States, and there's another one that was just set up days ago at the University of Windsor. We'll continue to follow all of this and the situation in Ukraine, in Gaza, here at home, domestically, the economic issues, and we'll try to get you closer to the truth. We do need your help. If you are able to support us, you can do that by donating at freedomreporters.com. That's where most people assist us, or you can support the work we're doing here at maverickdonations.com. Anybody that donates $60 or more, I will send you a hoodie or an embroidered Maverick News shirt with the logo embroidered right on it. Your choice. Any color you want, as long as it's black. Be happy to do that. Send that along. No charge. With a donation of $60 or more, $30 or more, and I'll send you a t-shirt. We have t-shirts in stock as well. So just make a notation when you make the donation, send the message to me, and tell me what size you need with your address, and I'll send you the apparel. And yeah, it's up to you guys. If you want us to continue doing the work, it's all up to you to keep us on the air and keep us working. freedomreporters.com. Please like, share, subscribe. Subscribe over on the Rumble channel. If you do subscribe on YouTube, and we encourage you to do that, make sure you look for the new Maverick Live channel. Make sure you look for us also at Maverick Multimedia. And if you do subscribe over on those channels, hit the notification bell so that you receive notification every time we post a new video or go live. And sorry to the folks over on Wimkin tonight. The feed just didn't start there. Had some trouble with it. It looked like it was functioning, but it was not. So we'll try to reestablish the feed there overnight, but we will upload an archived version for our viewers over on Wimkin later. So Wimkin, also over on Gab, and we post stuff now, Truth Social and TikTok. So we're getting around, but still nothing over on Facebook. And we're going to talk about that, our ban on Facebook, more in the nights ahead. Well, folks, thank you so much. A privilege as always to be with you again tonight. I will be back tomorrow. Same news channel, same news time. Maverick News, where we have the antivirus programs for your mind. Catch you on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.